So, Mark, thanks for joining us. Before we came on the podcast, I did say to you, I followed your Instagram account for a little while, and I do enjoy seeing the training videos that you put on, but also what I perceive as quite an honest account of an everyday triathlete who is actually doing quite well within the sport and pushing himself to that side of things. So, first things first, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's an interesting time of year. I just moved up into the mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. And in this area, it starts to turn into fall real sporadically. And last night, it turned into fall. The night before, it was like 90 degrees. And last night, it was like 45 degrees. When I woke up this morning, I was like, how am I supposed to go run? So,
Well, I was going to say, because the Instagram account, admittedly, there's at least one a week, if not many a week, there is no top on.
yeah.
But you can get away with it when you look like yourself, and you train as hard as you do.
Well, coming very soon, that will not be the case because it's starting to get kind of cold.
So I wanted to get you on because, as I said, I followed you for a little while on Instagram. Your story is an interesting story to tell. It might not necessarily be the 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 normal route, and if I can use that term, that some athletes would take in their lives and within triathlon and things. So
Mhm.
what I wanted to get into is, how did triathlon start for you? At what point did you sort of pick up the sport?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I actually kind of like stumbled upon it on accident. I never saw myself as being a person who fit the identity of a triathlete, of a marathoner, of a runner, of a independent sports person at all. I grew up doing team sports, and I actually didn't really enjoy doing team sports either. So there was a period of time when I got into college where I just didn't do any sports. I didn't watch any sports. I had a general aversion to sport. And during that time, I went around to music festivals and just partied my butt off. And I ended up with quite a addictive personality from that. And I ended up in drugs and alcohol, and like that started to ruin my life. I started to drink and drive, get in trouble. I've been to multiple jails, and then I started, needing help to get clean. And that was rehabs, that was outpatient therapy programs, and all sorts of stuff that was just, Alcoholics Anonymous and all of this stuff. I was trying so hard, and I was just like, why can't I figure it out? Why can't I get my life, together? And one day after I had gotten back from Christmas break, I realized I had just been at my ex-wife's parents' house, and like they had snacks all day long. And for 2 weeks, I just gorged on all the snacks. And I was like, man, I'm a complete addict. I can hardly hold myself back from anything. And I got home and I realized, I was like, I am out of shape. I need like something in my life. At this point, I was pretty good at staying away from alcohol and drugs. I mean, not perfectly, but I was getting there. But I was just way unhealthy. And so I went and got a gym membership, and the first day I jumped into the pool. And when I got out of the pool, I made it like 200 yards and was like huffing and puffing, and I pulled myself out of the pool like a wet dog, just like and I went into the sauna. I was like, oh, this makes it worth it. This is why I come to this. And I'm sitting in the sauna, and this guy goes, you should do a triathlon. And I'm like, okay, no way. And he goes on to explain like what it did for him and how he's not doing them anymore, but he loved doing it. And I was like, wow, well, I mean, I was like, maybe, I mean, it seems like this guy's happy, and if he can do it, then maybe I can. And then, um, and so, that kind of became like my motto, was like, if he can do it, I can. I knew this man was a sober man as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if he can do this. So the next day I actually told my wife that I was going to start training for an Ironman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I just kind of stumbled into it, and I didn't really know that this was going to become my passion, and that this was actually going to be one of the single largest compliments to my identity that I've experienced. There's sober and there's triathlon. Then those things like really helped me to find myself. And I think a little bit of it is because of my addictive, personality, but a lot of it's because it helps me focus on the things that I need to focus on in life. It's a really grounding, it's a source of grounding energy for me.
And at the very beginning, if you don't mind me asking about the addiction element of it, did that come? Was the sort of addictive nature there before the drink and the drugs, or was it literally you did it to party and then unfortunately it sort of snowballed and became something else, or
Yeah,
was that sort of addicted personality there beforehand?
there was a little bit of that, not really. I started at a very, very early age, actually, when I was oh shoot, as early as I can I even have memories. It was trying to find a way to escape for me. And so when I first started like drugs and alcohol, with friends and stuff, yes, it was about partying. But then I realized that they could be used as a tool of escape.
Yeah.
And see, from about age 6, I wanted to escape this world any way that I possibly could. I had sexual identity issues. I had been molested. I was then raped when I was 12 years old by a woman who was 25. And, I was getting real confused and just didn't know who I was. And so all I wanted to do was like escape any way possible. And drugs kind of became that for me, through the partying realm. But, I was different than everyone else, because once I ingested it, all of a sudden I wasn't there for the party. I was there for the drug. I was there for the alcohol. I was there for the escape that it was providing me.
And I'm no expert on the situation, but I often, and I drank a lot in your college is our university. I did a lot of that, and but then when I became a little bit older, I sort of I moved away from the alcohol side of things because I didn't necessarily like that I drank to become someone else, or maybe I drank to become a slightly different version of myself, and I was quite happy, when when I wasn't drinking, so I didn't necessarily need to become someone else, and
Yeah,
I don't know if that was something similar in your train of thought as well.
totally. It didn't fit for you. It just kind of like, yeah, well, for me, no, it fit for me.
Yeah,
It had become my identity. Like, go to Mark, he knows where to get the drugs. Go to Mark, he's gonna be drunk, he knows where the party's at. No, it became my identity. And then I got just like stuck in it. And then, at some point there's a physical addiction, and I was using heroin, and withdrawing was just miserable and impossible. And so that and then, yeah, so there was a point where it had become so intricately tied with who I was that I didn't know that there was another person that was better. you know Not only that, I just had a general feeling of like worthlessness and unsatisfaction with life, and a discontent with like who I was and where I was and where I was going, no matter where I was. Even if I was at a party, I was just like, I'm not happy here.
And is it very much a case, and sorry to come back to sort of triathlon, um, while we're talking about quite a hard hitting topic, but triathlon is based on a community, I feel. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming that the scene that you had come from, the, very much a community as well. Whether you perceive it as a bad community or a good community, as you said, people would come to you to ask where to get the drugs and so on. And so, is it was it very much a case of you had to try and leave some of that community behind as well?
Um, there was at some point where I like detached from even the community, and I was just attached to the drug and just attached to the alcohol. I locked myself in my apartment. I barely even came out. I left notes for the pizza man, even like, leave the pizza here. Here's the money. I'll come get it. Because I
Brilliant.
didn't want to see anybody. So I had completely isolated myself. I think one thing you kind of mentioned, though, the community of triathlon has really helped me out, because it's not like an whelming community. So it's not one in which I feel like I always have to be, meeting up with people and talking triathlon, and I can have my own training time. I can do it independently, but I can also tap into those groups occasionally, and so for me that really helped, because there were a couple of groups that were instrumental in my sobriety, but that is like, it was always like, let's all meet up, let's all meet up, let's all meet up every single day. And for me, I need some time alone, time alone, like me swimming lanes, lap after lap after lap. Like that helps me to re-energize and refocus, but then after I do that, then I can tap in to the triathlon community. And then, months down the road, it's a race and you're just like, wow, look at this thing that we're all a part of. It's so rewarding.
And so, what was the turning point for you as regards to the drugs and the alcohol, and thinking, actually, I need to stop this, and I need to, try and move on with my life without drugs and alcohol and the other things?
Yeah, I mean, at a very early age, I knew that it was going to be a problem, but I wasn't willing to stop. I was willing to try to find ways to make it work. And so, I tried everything possible, may that be like trying a different substance, or um, switching from beer to wine, all of the little things that you can possibly try. Trying only on the weekends, that was like impossible for me.
Mm.
And when it really, so yeah, I knew that it was going to be a problem at a very early age, but when it really hit, just like, I'm absolutely done with this, was only a couple of years ago. And well, no, before that, because I had had a serious concussion while skiing, and I got pretty much suicidal and tried to drink myself into disability. And then my cousin helped me to lift out of that. And then when I lifted out of that, I got a glimmer of hope that I was like, well, maybe I can be a sober person. And then I had a series of relapses that led me to a state, like, I relapsed and I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I entered this state of like complete hopelessness and worthlessness. And I tried to commit suicide a couple of times. And I wasn't even, I mean, it was just like, booze was bad, pills were like, nothing felt good. Being sober didn't feel good. And so, that is actually like right when I met that guy in the sauna. It was like a perfect timing. I met him when I was just like, what can I do? Like, being sober is miserable. being drunk is miserable. There's no option for me. And that's, I mean, this was like a couple of days after I had gotten out of the hospital with my stomach pumped after trying to kill myself with pills. So, you know, triathlon really ended up saving my life.
So what were the next steps then? You know, you said that you'd gone to the gym, you've met this guy, and then, you know, in the day or so later, you've gone to your wife and said, I want to do an Ironman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did it go from there? You know, how did you start? Where did you get information from?
Oh, you know, I went online and I Googled triathlon training plans and I downloaded one and I saved it. It was just a PDF with a whole bunch of workouts. I saved it and I said, I'm going to do this. And I didn't really even like look into it. It was just like the first one that I saw and I started training and it was like, and then I like hurt myself. And so this is, you know, this is what my book is actually about. It's about how triathlon like showed me different areas of my life that really like complemented my recovery from drugs and alcohol and really helped catalyst me into a full blown like long-term recovery. Is because the first thing that it made me do, like triathlon humbled me. It humbled me and told me like, you need to recognize where you are, who you are, and how far you have to go. You know, you need to accept that. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt even worse than what you did within the first week. And so when I started training and I hurt my Achilles tendon, I realized that I needed to accept that I was no professional triathlete yet. And I can't just like pick up and start running 11 miles after being a heroin addict. Like that's what I tried to do, you know, and I hurt myself. And so finally accepting that, like something in me happened where I was like, oh, it feels kind of good to accept where I'm at. And then the next stage that I realized when I accepted that was, okay, I need to reach out to other people. And this led me to like working on a very serious fear that I had, and that was fear of intimacy and fear of reaching out for help and fear of saying like, here I am, I have some weaknesses and I need help with those weaknesses. There is when I reached out to a triathlon coach. I also reached out for help in sobriety, and things really started to click there. And yeah, that, you know, I think without triathlon, I wouldn't have experienced that, and I wouldn't have even started asking help with sobriety. So I don't think I would be here at all.
And the one thing that, as you were saying, that made me think that, you know, that knockback that you had from that injury could have gone the other way as well, and it could have put you back towards alcohol and drugs because it was a knockback. Could that have been the case, do you think?
True. It did.
All right.
It actually did. So the reason why my blog is titled Trials to Triathlon is because of that. Is like literally that I experienced that and I relapsed. And I was like, I'm not accepting. I was so scared of accepting who I was and accepting my weaknesses. So I drank it away, and I saw myself doing this and I was like, what am I doing? I'm drinking away my problems. And so I was like, I just have to accept this is who I am. This is where I am. And then I reached out for help. And then after I had reached out for help, I got scared because I realized that people knew now my weaknesses.
Yeah.
I had told my ex-wife that I was a recovering bisexual. So there was levels of my onion that came out when I accepted myself, and I freaked out and I had another relapse because of that. And then I came out of that relapse and I was like, well, okay, these people are in and they actually do care, you know, they actually do care. So I might as well just give it up. And then I just gave it up. And then my very last relapse happened because I looked at my training plan and I looked at these things that people were trying to do to help me. And I looked at the things that I was trying to do to help myself. And I just didn't trust that I was actually worth anything good to happen to me. I didn't trust that anything good actually could come. I didn't trust if I followed this training plan that I was actually going to cross that finish line. And that that I relate to my fear of faith. I just absolutely had abstained from all faith, and largely because I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, and I had feelings for other men, and that was like, that meant that I was going to hell. But I also like couldn't lie about it because then I would be going to hell. So I was just like stuck in this, like absolutely scared of anything faith and anything trust related. Um, so triathlon finally gave me the first thing that I trusted. The first thing was, okay, I trust if I do this training plan, I will cross the finish line. And after a couple of months, I crossed my first Olympic finish line. And the experience was just overwhelming because I had never accomplished anything in my life. And I had never followed through with anything from like point A to point B, and seen it actually work. And then, then I got hope that all the stuff in, excuse me, that all the stuff in like sobriety was going to work for me too. If I just like kept putting one foot in front of the other, I would eventually get there. And then, everything kept unfolding, and now we're here.
And you mentioned at the beginning, just now that that element of you dive straight into your training. You found triathlon and you thought, I'm going to download a plan. I'm going to dive straight in, and you have some complex issues that you were working through there, but from a new triathlete point of view, I feel a lot of us do that. We jump straight into something, especially take me for example. I came from a sporting background, and I was like the big I am. Oh, I know how to run. I know how to swim. I've done it all my life, but I'd never done it competitively. And I remember, you said something just now that you went out and you tried to run 11 miles when you hadn't really done that before. And I joined a running club, and I was very fortunate that the running club was a very social running club. It's not really competitive. It's about the people around me, and I used to be there at the front every time, and I'd be running as fast as I could for the first 3 or 4 miles. We'd have a break, and then for the last 3 or 4 miles, I'd be at the back because I'd be blowing out my backside because
Yeah.
I didn't understand that step up or that change in direction, because I wanted to go in at it all at once, and I want to be the best. And I think a lot of triathletes have that mentality that they want to succeed in what they're doing, but they want to do it as best as anyone else can. And
Hmm.
I was very much of that case, and I've sensed from you, from what you're saying, that you wanted to do that. You wanted to succeed at something and find yourself within it.
Yeah. I think triathlon's cool too because if you go about it that way, then you're likely going to experience a larger portion of the race watching people pass you. Whereas if you go about it in a more mindful approach, and you kind of swallow your pride and your ego, then by the end of the race, you see that you're passing other people and you're like, holy cow. Um,
And
It
you said something just now, and you said triathlon made you humble, and I think it's an amazing point because it does. And linked to that, what you just said, the moment that you realize that you aren't the big I am within triathlon is the moment you can then take it on and succeed.
Yeah.
Because you, again, very similar to what you said already, you accept where your weaknesses are, so it allows you to identify them, to then move on and say, right, okay, this isn't what I need to work on, and this is what I need to succeed in. And with triathlon, it's not like team sports. Team sports, you can hide, you can get by other people's performances. Other people can drag you along. With triathlon, you've got three disciplines to learn, um, and get good at, and it only takes something to disrail you. You know, it only takes something small for you to, you have a bad bike and you push too hard, it affects your run. And all of
Hmm.
a sudden your race is out the window. And for me, I know a lot of people that, they may have one race a year and they'll pick a big race, a longer distance. And you put in all your eggs into one basket. And if you haven't trained properly, or if you get injured, or you have a bad race, it has the potential to make you such a miserable bugger after it. It but it, but that's why we love it, and that's why we come back for more, because them. And you said it just now, the moment you cross that line, what a feeling. You're
Oh,
running down that red carpet towards the finish line. What an amazing feeling. We so my local race within Wales, big one anyway, is Ironman. And the Ironman Wales event, it's a difficult course, and people who listen to podcasts again will be sick of me saying this, but I love the race and I will talk about it all day, because what it gives you, which against other Ironman races, sorry, I should say, is you get support for pretty much the entire race, which is sort of unheard of for some races. You do 112 miles on the bike. There are long stretches where there are no crowd. You do
yeah.
26 miles run, again, long stretches where there's no crowd. Within Wales, the bike, you go through a number of villages within a rural part of Wales, and every time, every mile or so, you're seeing people cheering you on. It's brilliant.
Oh, that sounds
Uh,
wonderful.
and then within the marathon, it's a looped marathon course. You do 4 times 6 miles, and that sounds boring, but it's not, because you're running through the town, and the funny thing is that you see the same people every time you pass them. And maybe we shouldn't be saying this after what we just spoke about, but you see them get gradually a little bit more drunk and drunk and drunk every time you go past them. Um, but the atmosphere and the crowd is amazing, and that was the hook for me to get into triathlon. I went down to watch the first ever race in Ironman Wales, and I was hooked from that day.
Oh, cool.
But it took me 2 years to sign up for a race, because maybe very similar to yourself, but not to the level that you had. I definitely had that. Can I do it? I want to do it, and I think it would be amazing, but can I do it? And it wasn't the can I do it physically. It was, can I do it from an equipment point of view and the knowledge point of view, because it's not a cheap sport. And you need wetsuits, you need bikes, you need various running gears, helmets, shoes. You know this as well as anyone. It's a minefield, and when you don't come from that sort of background, I remember having a conversation about, someone asked me what bike I'm going to get, and I'd already signed up for the Ironman at this point, and I didn't have a clue. And then they started talking about group sets, and I was just like, what the hell's a group set? I have no idea. I thought I have about £400, which is probably about $500. I need to get a second-hand bike. Someone help me, please. And I was quite fortunate that people within the running club had done previous Ironman events, so they were able to pass on knowledge. And And I've been in the sport now for 7 years, and every year I learn something new. And by doing the podcast and the various Life of Try stuff that I've done over the years, you just learn more and more and more. But the main reason why I do the podcast is there's a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of people who are willing to give you information which is rubbish and complicated. And I don't mind people passing on knowledge, that's not a problem. Just don't make it complicated for people who are first coming into the sport. Keep it simple, don't scare them, because as a community, we want to grow. But it, you know, unfortunately, there are people out there who believe they are elite. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but they just need to know when to give the right information at the right time.
Hmm.
So with that in mind, we're talking about me here. I want to talk about yourself. You mentioned that you reached out to a coach. What do you feel the coach gave you?
Well, it gave me some structure, I guess. That's kind of the biggest thing. Gave me the structure and the feedback, um, and just a sense that I wasn't going at it alone. Um, so, you know, I'm not really too sure. I think the biggest thing that really happened for me that the coach provided was just something that he didn't provide externally. It was more so like the process that it was for me of actually like reaching out for help, because
Yeah.
that was literally something that I had never done before. So somebody being like, okay, I'm willing to help you. Maybe that was the biggest thing, just knowing that, wow, this guy's willing to help me cross a finish line. I think that's the biggest thing, the kindness or something. Yeah.
So how, I follow you on Instagram, as I've already said. So how do you fit it all in now? How does, we're in funny times because, we're in a year of COVID pandemic, and I don't know what it's like with you, but various lockdowns across the world, races are being cancelled left, right, and centre. But we're starting to hopefully come out of it the other end. But what does a typical sort of training block look like for you? When do you train? How do you fit it in around other commitments?
I fit it in just because I live a pretty structured life. Like I go to bed by 8:30. I eat dinner by 5:30, and I work from home. So I do personal training, online health coaching. And I do that at home, and I make my schedule around it. I definitely I'm up super early, so I get my stretching in like right before I go to sleep, and then when I wake up while I'm making my coffee, it's just my routine. I have my coffee and then I go train for a couple of hours. Then I'm usually on the grind by 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Some mornings even earlier than that. And then there will be days like today, for instance, where I didn't have any appointments throughout the day until 2 p.m. till this one. And so I was like, I woke up at 4 o'clock, got on doing my work on the computer, although none of it was with people. So from like 4:30 until 10, I was working and got all that done. And then I wanted to go outside and train early in the morning, but it was too cold. And I realized too, I was like, man, I'm training for an Ironman that's in September in Augusta, Georgia. And that's like one of the hotter places in Georgia. And so I was like, I better do like a nice hot run today. So I just waited until it got hot. And then I went and did my workout. And I definitely need to do a lot of work in that area, and just my water retention is very poor. I sweat so much, just gallons and gallons of water. So that was my biggest failure on the Boulder, Colorado Ironman too, is the cramping towards the end of the run really limited my ability to perform better than what I was hoping for.
You don't pick cold weather Ironman, do you? But
No,
cold there, and yeah. You should come to Wales. We yeah, it's not hot here, that's for sure.
I would love to do that.
I warn you, it's a hilly route. But so Mark, I'm fully aware we've probably been talking for about 40 minutes now, so we'll wrap up. But how can people connect with you? What's your website? How do people find out about the book? More importantly.
Yeah, definitely. So connect with me through Instagram. My Instagram is Mark A Turnip, and then from there you can really just reach out and message me. I'm very responsive on that, and Facebook. And my book is located on that as well. And you can go to trials2triathlon.com, which is the blog. And that blog will keep on going. And the book is there right now, available for pre-order. And it's in the very final stages of publication. So we're almost there. We don't have a definite date yet, but it's going to be very soon. So we're super excited about that. And that is at www.trials2triathlon.com. I also have a online personal training and health coaching business at integrityendurance.com. I know it's a lot, so that's why I just say, go to the Instagram, reach out if you want, personal training or health coaching consultations, then reach out on Instagram, and I'm more than happy to help.
Brilliant. And what I'll do is I'll try and link into the podcast description all the websites that you've said, as well as your Instagram account.
Okay, wonderful.
Mark, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'd love to have you on in the future as well. Maybe we can find a topic to discuss specifically around maybe racing or training. But yeah, I'd love to have you on. But thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it.
No worries.